left. Oh, okay. Awesome.
Okay.
I'm here.
Ready to go?
It's recording.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:13 p.m. I apologize to everybody with my technical difficulties. I'm a little irritated at myself about that. So, the first, second item is the conflict of interest question of officers. This is asked each meeting. So I'll ask each officer if they have a conflict of interest. And if so, they would need to declare that. I do not have a conflict of interest this evening. Jeff?
I do not have a conflict of interest.
Hey, Chris?
No conflict of interest.
Okay. And Alex?
No conflict of interest.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Number 3 on the agenda is to discuss the date, the goals, the agenda, and conduct of a proposed special meeting concerning the community plan effort. And this is slotted for about 20 minutes time. So we had talked about calling a special meeting concerning the community plan, goals, agenda, and conduct. And I don't know where to start with that. We're picking up on the community plan. I looked at the document again today, 60 pages, very extensive document that we'll need to work on in the coming months and maybe a year or two. I'll just open the conversation then.
Yeah, Mark, maybe I can take it from here since
okay.
I was kind of the instigator here.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to start with a generalized just description of what we've been talking about, and so that we, the officers, and someone, I think it might be you, Mark, is there's a bunch of noise, but if it's you, probably we just have to live with it. Yeah, it's Mark. So if you've got a microphone or something that might be rubbing on your clothes or something like that, just try to. Okay. Or if you want to mute
I've got my earbuds
in. Okay, that might be
okay. I'll take those out.
I don't know. Or just mute your phone when you're not talking, maybe.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, we'll work with it. I don't hear it right now, so let's maybe let's just wait and see. Okay. But if it keeps happening, you might want to try taking your earbuds out or mute your phone when you're not talking.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay. So, so a idea that has been floating around among the officers, but we are all emailing each other one-on-one and not meeting as a group, which we are doing now, is that going forward, a good, yeah, that's pretty, maybe you can mute yourself, Mark, not with just with your phone.
Okay.
Okay. Going forward, a good way to propagate or to move forward with the community plan going forward would be to create a new committee along the lines of the STR committee to shepherd the community plan effort going forward rather from here. And we were thinking about how to discuss that in the meeting on August 12th, and the conclusion that a few of us came to, or at least that I came to and talked to Mark about, was that there was probably enough that we would want to get input from the community about that plan, like about moving forward with a new way to do the community plan, that trying to cram it into that one meeting with also the bylaws election, it was just going to be too much. And what we should do is just do like a short agenda item on Saturday, and then a have an entire special meeting dedicated to collecting input from the community about how to move forward with the community plan, and whether this this idea of having a new subcommittee similar to the STR subcommittee is a good idea, and just get the proper level of community engagement and a lot of input. And like playing telephone between the officers about how we were going to do this was actually kind of the instigation that we would have this meeting, so that we could make sure that we, the officers, are all on the same page about what we want to bring to the general membership on August 12th. And now that we have 14 people here in addition to who are interested in this topic, we're certainly interested in hearing from you on the logistics, because we don't want to talk too much about the content of the community plan, because we want to do that in meetings with a high level of participation, but just about the steps we're going to take over the next few weeks about gathering input. So maybe what I'd like to do is ask the officers, Alex and Mark and Chris, first, for their response to that and what their thinking is, so that we can have that discussion, so that on August 12th, we're all on the same page about what we think we should be doing going forward regarding the community plan. And Mark, you're the chair.
Yeah.
Maybe you should go first.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing this. I do like that idea. I don't know the details of how many people we might consider, the membership might want to consider, but I do like the idea of doing that, having that steering committee formed and working on the community plan in that way. So yes, I like that idea.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think separating that, at least the initial discussion, into a meeting that is not the August 12th meeting is going to be useful. I think we should remind everyone here who's not on the board why we're having this meeting, is because we are now following Oregon public meeting laws, and as a board, we are not discussing, we're not even on the same email thread anymore in an effort to strictly follow these regulations. And so that's why, for people coming in and listening in, if this seems kind of light on content, the reason we're having this meeting right now is mainly because we've, as a board, changed our communication practices, and it's only now with a quorum of other community members that we can get together more than two of us at once. So just want to reiterate that, and that's why we're having this meeting here. But I think that's a great idea in terms of carving out a separate special meeting of the NCAC to kind of go through and really focusing on the community plan instead of lumping it into the Saturday.
Chris?
Yes, I concur for the creation of a community plan steering committee. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces, beginning with the survey, and once the work groups start. So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so I would like to put forward what I believe we want to accomplish in this second meeting sometime. One of the things we want to decide on today is the date. And it's probably either, I think neither Alex nor Chris can make September 5th. But maybe August 29th or maybe September 12th.
Okay.
It's there's pros and cons to both, but I would like to put forward what I believe a good okay, so We have some stuff in the chat. Okay, so Alexis is voting for September. I believe what we want to accomplish in this longer meeting is to mostly answer two questions. One, who should be, or how should we compose the membership of the new committee? And I think we should pose that question broadly to the community and let people give all the input in any fashion that they want. But I think my thought about that is we should be looking to represent as broad a spectrum of the interests and the values and interests that people have around Nescoin, like different parts of the Nescoin community, both geographical and the role people play in the community. But we don't want a community with a committee with 20 people on it. So that's the kind of the tension we want to resolve in as transparent a way as possible, with as much input as possible in this meeting to find out what people feel is important, that what interests they feel are important to have represented on this committee to manage the community plan process going forward, and also what the what size of a committee people are comfortable with. And also in there, we may want to discuss how we actually choose those people, which is a tricky question, and we probably need to spend some time talking about that today. So this has been an area, it's like an area of some contention lately. And so I guess I want to stop there and give the officers a chance to weigh in and see how they feel about that part of the agenda, and then maybe we can hear from some of the other people who attended today too, if they have anything that they want to share. Mark, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think I agree with what you said. To try and I like the idea of talking with the membership and getting ideas about how who might be on the committee. And I like that that you mentioned all geographical areas and interests of folks, so that we have a good cross section of the community, that's willing to do this. I've been on committees as a school board member that have pretty large committees on a strategic plan for a school district, and those are 40 people, and that's a hard, I don't know, that's a pretty large group. And so when you say 20, or less, actually maybe less than 20, I think I do think there is a good number that, and I don't know exactly what that number is, but I think there's a number that's reasonable for folks to be able to meet and to get work done. So I like everything that you said about that, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, the number I have in my head is 8, which.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Which is probably a good size to be workable, but it might be hard to find 8 people that really capture every possible group of people in the Nescoin community that want representation.
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you've said, Jeff. I think there's always going to be a balance between trying to capture everyone's view and making a committee that can actually function as a committee. That's always the challenge. Picking committees. I think 8 is a workable number. I think 10 is a workable number. I think as you get more into the double digits, it becomes a little unwieldy. But and we're obviously going to have to discuss how to select people. We'll certainly be putting out a call for volunteers, I imagine, like we did for the bylaws.
I have some ideas on that I was going to share a little later, but and are you good with the idea of using this as sort of the first agenda item for this meeting that we're going to have in probably September 12th?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think reminding people that it's not the committee that decides what the community plan is. This is just a committee to get input in the most, inclusive way from everyone in the community. So, the power of the community members is somewhat limited. If they're doing their job right, they're going to be almost transparent conduits of what the people of Nusquin are thinking about.
Okay, and Chris.
I was thinking a number from 7 to 10. Keeping it to a minimum number of folks will keep it productive. But we also want to make sure that we have representation from a broad stakeholder group of the community.
And also,
Okay, so I'm going to record in the minutes that the first agenda item for what's probably going to be the September 12th meeting will be to collect input from the community about who should be represented on this steering committee. Okay. If anyone who is not an officer would like to provide input on what we've just been talking about, so I see Harvey has his hand raised, and anyone else, if you can use the hand raise icon, that makes it really easy. But go ahead, Harvey.
I think you should come to the meeting with a list of characteristics you want to get represented in terms of geography, demographics, ownership, participation, not just a blind open discussion about what things you think are important to drive the process. In other words, I think you should not be, you should basically specify the number of characteristics you think should be a broad spectrum. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I had it in my head that that we would have some starting points, like some suggestions, like some suggestions, rather than just leave it completely blank, because that would probably help make a more productive discussion.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Alexis.
Thanks, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have kids home, so I have earbuds in. First of all, I want to thank the leadership group here for having a meeting that's open and transparent like this. It's really helpful for membership. I just wanted to echo, I'm not sure which one of you said it, but I really appreciated seeing the call to action for the bylaws committee being open to the whole group. I know Mark wasn't at the last meeting, but he and I have spoken regarding the motions that I made that are being brought to the August meeting about exactly that, having full transparency and openness for members who are interested in any future committees to get that put into a vote. So I would really encourage that you consider or bring to the membership, if they want, another kind of call to action. I don't know if that's what we call it, but that's how I received it in my emails. Like, oh, it's a call to action, who's interested? Because you may get folks interested just by opening the door that way. And then I have kind of a question that I don't think I've ever had answered, and you guys might not know the answer. It might be one for the county, but I know Randall had shared that at the last community plan process, there was an outside group that was involved in it. And I know that was the feedback I provided when asked, was that this is a really important document that's being created for our community. And there are so many different facets and so many members of our community of 800 property owners who don't even know about this committee or that this work might be being done. So is there at some point with the county, after whatever new committees are formed, or the survey committee, or all the various work that's being done and the hard work that's been done by Chris and Randall and others, is there outside vetting that would happen similar to the prior plan. It seems like there's a huge group of professionals that's what they do for a living. I don't think any of us do.
Chris or Randall, do you want to take that, or both?
I think that would be up to the yet to be established steering committee to decide on, but I think it's worth discussing. I just don't know, what something like that would cost, if it would cost anything.
Randall, yeah.
Sarah might be able to address that if any other unincorporated communities have asked for professional assistance in this. I know Alexis had referred to the League of Cities and some statewide organizations, and they may have guidelines or something. I'm not sure. Well, we don't have a budget for anything like that, so we'd have to raise the money to do it.
Or the county would have to provide it.
So far, the county has not provided even the money for the media that they promised. So I wouldn't count on the county coming up with any money for it.
So I'm
Randall.
Sorry,
can I just ask, Randall, how was it funded before? Do you know? I don't know if you were chair then or not, but.
No, Alex Sifford was on that committee, and he corrected me and said, no, they didn't have outside assistance.
I think
but Alex is here. He could clarify if he's.
That's correct.
Correct.
That is correct.
So there was outside assistance.
Alex and Tom, I see your hand up. I'm just going to ask Alex a question real quick. So my reading the old community plan, it seemed clear that the county, I had the impression that the county had been involved in crafting up updates to the zoning regulations such that they would be acceptable to the county. And we've had communication from Sarah Absher that seems to indicate that. Is that true? Like how close to the truth is that?
I'll take a stab at that, Jeff. I think historically there's been a lot of guidance in crafting any sort of specific zoning regulations or word. So yeah, running it by informally Sarah or staff, I think should be expected, would be a given. Yeah, but we want to get to the stage where you have something to give them.
Of course, yeah, which is a long way away.
Exactly.
And we've heard from Sarah that she wants to be more involved going forward. Right. That came via Barbara Triplett, who is also here. I don't know if you want to share anything about that conversation. And Tom has his hand up. So Tom, if you want to tell us what Sarah said along with your other comment, go ahead.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to discuss. Barbara and I were at the last Board of Commissioners meeting and talked to Sarah Absher briefly. And sua sponte, that is on her own, she said that she wanted to be very involved in the direction and creation of the community plan. So I think the answer to outside vetting is that it's going to come from community development and Sarah. And so I think it to the extent that you want to talk to her about getting any other professional expertise involved, that's probably something that she should address.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And the most important thing, and I'll get you, Rand, in a second, is that the new committee that we are discussing forming will be, this will be their responsibility to find out the answers to these questions and own this process for the future. Rand, what did you have to add?
Well, again, as Alexis points out, there's probably good guidance documents from the League of Cities and places like that kind of help walk you through the process. Yeah. Alex Sifford and Gail Lucelle both were integral to the last process and can probably point out some pitfalls or some good practices also that may make this a little smoother than otherwise.
Okay, so Alexis and Nancy have their hands up, and let's go ahead and hear from you two. But I want to just emphasize that this is all good information that the committee that we form later is going to have to pick up and run with, because so let's not like get too stuck on this topic in this meeting. So Alexis.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. And Ran, I'm happy to share those names that I had shared with you of some organizations. I've had some experience working with them in the past, and I'd be happy to share that with if the committee is formed with that committee. I know this is what you guys are all talking about, and I think that's great. I just wanted to say one more thing, and you have you have 4 people from the STR committee here. I will not speak for them, but I will tell what I think they would probably agree with is whenever you come to the point of creating that committee, after you get that feedback, having a really clear guiding document of the time commitment, the expectations, and the final goals. Of course, they will evolve, but I think something like that as a starting point would have really helped us in the other committee. You know, others could say no, but I would just say that is something that, you know, should really be thought about, because I think for a lot of us, we ended up spending far more time than we anticipated, and that might influence who wants to volunteer or not.
That is great. That is really good information for us to
that's a
use.
Good point,
Nancy.
I was actually going to comment something very similarly to Alexis. I think it might be premature to actually try to form a committee on Saturday with everything else going on, or even establish how many people would be on the committee without understanding what the role of the committee will be and what the structure, timeline, et cetera. And so I was going to suggest that perhaps you mention on Saturday that you're looking at forming such a committee, and that you're doing some research and bring it back at the next meeting, unless there's some kind of a deadline where it has to be done right away. And then actually have a motion with everything prepared on setting that up when the time comes.
Yeah, the plan for Saturday is to announce that we are working on this and invite everyone to another meeting where we're going to spend probably an hour hearing from people about what they want out of that committee, and what they're like let people share what they care about getting this committee set up, and including this kind of great input and any more that you have to share by then. And we'll and I think even in that second meeting, that's one of the questions that's open for today that we need to kind of communicate, discuss between us, the officers. But my personal feeling is we won't be ready to form the committee even at the end of that second. That we'll just have the information about what people are looking for, and some other things. And Barb, and then let's move on a little bit. So Barb, and then we'll move on.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. Barb, are you there? Are you muted? You're muted, Barb.
I just wanted to add that Nescoin is not the only unincorporated area that's had to come together to do a community plan. It's my understanding that Pacific City is probably the most recent one. And so I advise you to get in touch with the people that were involved in Pacific City. That's certainly an activity that's taken place more recently than the last Nescoin community plan. So that's my advice on that.
Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to move on. The agenda item that I was going to propose for this meeting, that sounds like it's going to be September 15th or 12th. But it's been brought up a few times, is that I believe we should, when we send out the meeting notification for this meeting, likely on September 12th, we should also, in the meeting notification and on Saturday in the August 12th meeting, invite people who are interested in serving on that committee to attend that meeting, and we'll have an agenda. People who want to serve on the committee to raise their hand and introduce themselves and say why are interested in serving on the committee and what interest they think they would. And I'd like to ask the officers again what so Mark.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay. Asking folks if they're interested and why they're interested. I think that's a good idea.
Alex?
Yeah, I agree. A couple minutes of hearing from everyone would be probably beneficial.
And Chris?
Same here.
Okay. The third big agenda item that I have for that meeting is that I would like to also ask people or just collect input on what this committee's responsibilities should be and how they should work, which is kind of like the input to that guiding document that Alexis was referring to. And I think that's maybe not as hard a question because it's probably pretty obvious, but just collect ideas like Alexis's idea that there should be a guiding document and make sure that we have a venue that everyone has so that we can hear ideas from the community. The starting point in my head is that this steering committee should be that. It should be a steering committee that's not responsible for doing every single bit of work because then they would be totally swamped and no one would want to do that job. But just they will be the repository for the domain knowledge about this process, which is very important and it's kind of thin on the ground right now, and we need some people to spend some time working with Sarah and learning what all the really internalizing what the steps are, and then they are responsible for bringing each step to the chair and to the general membership and saying this is what's next and this is and here here's the next step and collecting input and that kind of thing. So again, I'm gonna ask the other officers whether they're in agreement that this is something that we should talk about at this as an agenda item at the September 12th meeting. So Mark.
Yeah. Yes. I agree. I agree with that. I do like what you've reiterated and Alexis has said about the having a clear goal and the time commitment on it. I do like that part of it. I think anybody who's served on a lot of committees, sometimes you get in and it ends up being much more time than you thought, or maybe less time than you thought, but oftentimes it can be more. So having folks have a sense of that ahead of time, I think is good.
Alex?
Yeah, I agree. Echo those comments.
And Chris.
Agreed. And I think what the document that some of you have been referring to is called a charter. And I think that a charter would be necessary to outline the responsibilities of the steering committee, as well as the goals. So yeah, I'm in support of that.
Good. And Randall, you have your hand raised.
Well, I was going to say about what Chris said, just kind of a job description may be required for people to say they want to participate. So they have a better idea of what they're getting into, not only the time commitment, but what they're, as he said, a charter to give an idea of what the goal is and how the vision of it takes place, because mostly this is an opportunity to bring it to the community and have the community do the work. The community should be doing the work, and the guidance committee should just be organizing it so that the meetings happen and state planning goals are outlined clearly, and then the current community plan is outlined, and then what revisions might be required. So, I mean, there are some natural paths to having this work get accomplished, and laying that out a little bit in advance so that when they are looking at whether they want to participate, they have a better idea of what it is that they're going to be doing or what they're trying to accomplish. So that's the charter, probably.
Yeah, that's some great feedback, and maybe we want to use some time on Saturday, this Saturday on August 12th, to have a rough draft of the charter and collect some feedback on that on Saturday. And Mark, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. No, I agree with that.
Okay.
What you just said, yeah.
Okay, so that's very productive. So we have three. So on Saturday, like we're going to try and have a little bit of a early version of the charter ready to share with people, and maybe collect a little bit of feedback on that, and so that when we are going into this meeting on September 12th, we can collect have that as a starting point. So the last thing that I would like to talk about with regard to this meeting on September 12th, the last agenda item, it's not an agenda item, but it's something important to talk about, is after we collect all this input, we will still need to compose a committee, that Mark, according to the bylaws, Mark has the discretion to choose who's on the committee, and we will need to we will need to pick a number of how many people we want to be on the committee, and pick the people that fill those slots, and submit that to the general membership at the next general meeting. And there's and maybe we want to open this up at the September 12th meeting for a question to collect input on, or maybe we can collect input on it on August 12th, this coming Saturday. But the simplest thing for us to do would be to just take all the input we get, and then Mark just makes a call about how many people, having listened to everyone, how many people should be on the committee, and who the best people that we heard from are. But maybe there are better ways to do it. And if we want to try and do something more formal, like an election, or try to, if we want to do something that is less, that is even more inclusive than that, we have to figure out how we're going to do it, how we go from hearing a whole bunch of opinions and feedback into how do we turn that into a group of people other than just picking them. And Rand, I think I want to give the officers a chance to weigh in here before I call on the other people who are attending. So Mark, you're the one who ultimately has the call here. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I tend to I would open it up to more people, and I guess getting to the point where the membership could vote on them. I would tend towards not limiting it too much, and having membership vote on it, rather than me being the sort of the gatekeeper of it.
My thought there is that, what if the people who get the most votes produce like suppose everyone is on, like half of the committee is on South Beach Road, which is something that could really happen.
Yeah.
So that if we leave it completely open, then we might, we're leaving it possible that we may end up with a skewed committee that where not all the interests that we want to represent are well represented. So, and did you have, like, I want to hear from Mark or from Alex and Chris, but did you have a response to that? Mark?
Well, I guess that could happen. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess that could happen, and it might not happen.
Yeah, and we don't have to figure it out today because it's a pretty tough question. But if we don't figure it out today, we have to figure it out later. So,
right,
Alex.
I really like the approach that we took with the that we're taking with the bylaws committee, which is a call for volunteers. And as you pointed out, with a vote, it might not be the most representative group. We run that risk, of course. Everyone could be on South Beach, everyone could be up Slab Creek, although doubtful. I do like the fact that leaving it open for Mark to look at things and see if we do a vote or if we do a volunteer, for there to be a little kind of post-volunteer discretion of, okay, these people got the highest number of votes, or a lot of these people volunteered, but we are certainly missing someone from this group or that group. I think it might have to be a call for volunteers or a vote with the potential of at the end, Mark looking at everything and saying, this group doesn't exactly fit the guidance that we came up with for this committee, so maybe we pick this person instead of this person.
Chris.
Yeah, I think it needs to start with a call for volunteers, and let's say we get 10 or 12, and then there'll be some judgment on Mark's part to identify individuals that he feels represent the good cross section of the community. And then once that list is identified, then put that out to a vote, as opposed to voting on individual members or individual volunteers.
And Ran has his hand up, and so does Alexis. So Ran looks like he was first. Ran, you're muted.
The bylaws are somewhat ambiguous in that they say both that the chair can appoint members and the chair can recommend members for committees. Yeah. And that's what's always been a kind of the gatekeeper concept is there, but it's really more of you have to make a call at some point as to who's there and who you think the overall membership will vote for and approve as a committee. So it's I see where you're going with having the Mark make the call, but it is still up to the membership to approve the committee. So that's part of what's on your mind when you're selecting the people that will be widely represented. So just wanted to point out that ambiguity is there in the bylaws. Some more work for the bylaws committee.
Indeed. Alexis.
Thanks, Jeff. I think that through the discussion that's been in this chat, there might actually be a hybrid solution. I think someone, it might have been you, Jeff, suggested that in either the August or the September meeting, the general membership suggest topics or areas that they want to make sure there's representation in. So maybe there's an opportunity for you as the leadership trifecta or quad, there's 4 of you. What is that? I don't know my Greek.
Okay, yeah.
Quadfecta, to, you know, put together a list of what you think that is for the membership. So, you know, is that a representative from the 8, whatever that neighborhood consideration would be, South Beach, Village, the kind of things that we typically look at when we think of the community. Is there a business representative? Is there someone who has, you know, vacant land, has been in the community for a while? Whatever, is there a family? Is there someone whose kids attend Nesquin Valley? Is there, you know, whatever that looks like. And then you might have volunteers slotting into that. It might actually make Mark, if you decide he's, you know, the ultimate decision maker, it might make his job easier, because someone might say, oh, I'd like to represent South Beach, or I'd like to represent the Village, or I am a parent with a young family, Alex, you know, whatever it is, they might naturally hit those target areas of what the membership feels makes up Nescoin. Just a thought. I don't know how that would necessarily execute, but I know for me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a steering committee that crosses all of those areas. And so that everybody's voice is heard, and it isn't just South Beach, or just like you mentioned.
So have volunteers identify who they think they represent.
Yeah, maybe, or if this group wants to say, hey, we're looking for representatives that cover these key points that are going to factor into this community plan. And maybe they might say, oh, well, wearing this hat, I would be comfortable doing it. Or, you know, oh, actually, there's no one from my neighborhood. Well, we should have a voice. I want to be involved, you know.
Okay. Tom.
The way the STR subcommittee was selected was that there were categories that the board, the officers agreed on, and people then volunteered, and the chair interviewed people, selected people, and the general membership voted on that slate and voted for it. To the extent that we had any negatives on our committee, it was that we weren't given a lot of direction. And we came to the conclusion that, that's no one's fault, but we came to the conclusion that we had to make recommendations and did surveys. And by the way, at times it took 20 to 40 hours a week, or 20 to 40 hours a month, excuse me. It took a lot of time. I think that the negatives of that, of going about it that way, are not so much here, because it's a steering committee. And so I think I agree that the thing to do is to find out what categories people need to be represented, have people then volunteer, either the officers or Mark, or however you decide to choose the people that fit those categories, fit maybe the membership of the I don't know how you would do that. I mean, I think the membership might, you know, the residents might want to vote for resident volunteers, and the people that have vacation homes might want to vote for theirs. Probably the best way to go about it is to have Mark or the officers select volunteers after interviews and after input from all the volunteers about why they think should be on the committee, and then take it to the general membership. And you know, I think those categories of what need to be determined, it could be as broad as we want them to be. But I think some of the burden is taken off the committee because it's a steering committee. And so ultimately, whatever happens on the community plan is going to come from the general membership and everybody in the general membership that decides to be active.
If I can just add to what Tom, can I just add real quick to what Tom said? It does still leave the opportunity for Mark, because like, I don't know if people who were in business have volunteered or not, but I didn't volunteer. So in the prior chair's role, he reached out to me and asked me to do it. So there could be a situation, you know, he said, we don't have anybody from business. So it could be that Mark might have to, you know, tap a few folks if there aren't volunteers, but I think it'd be a good start to flesh out probably some of the main categories.
Okay. and getting those categories that's agenda item number one for the September 12th meeting, is to hear from everyone what they think the category should be. Because I think if the officers who can't talk to each other, except in a meeting like this, try to put the categories together, that seems like a recipe for just what poor people think. And I certainly don't trust myself to pick those categories. Tom, did you raise your hand again, or did you just not put it down from before? Okay, you did. All right. So Mark, this is really because as the bylaws stand, this is like your responsibility. You, as far as the bylaws are concerned, you just get to choose, and all of this other stuff we're doing is just to help you make that choice. Even if we have an election and you just go with what the election says. Do you want to talk more about this today, or do you want to try and figure it out over time, realizing that we call another meeting like this, we're not, like, the officers are not all going to be able to put their heads together, and it's going to be harder. But it also, maybe we need to gather more input. It seems like we need to gather more input on this coming Saturday on this question, what people feel like the right way to do it is. So.
Yeah, I think gathering more information on Saturday is a good idea. I do like what's been said today, and the idea of representing different areas or interests is a really good idea. But I'd like to see what folks say on Saturday as well.
Okay. Last thing on this, is September 12th good for all of the officers?
Okay.
Let me just check my calendar here.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, it works for me. I'm going to be traveling for work, but as long as it's in the evening.
Yeah, I think
or later.
The usual Tuesday at 7 p.m. for a special meeting, I think, is what we would do. But, Mark.
Yeah, that's let me look here. September 12th. Yes, that would be fine. Yeah.
Okay, Alex.
That should be fine.
Okay, so we will announce that there will be a meeting in 1 month's time this Saturday on September 12th. Okay, so I just sort of took over the meeting. Mark, if you want to pick up for the next agenda item, which is to talk about the meeting, where just we, the officers, and maybe this can be a little bit more less structured, because we're really just be talking about how, what we're for each agenda item, and make sure we're on the same page for anything where we need to do that.
Right.
But if you want to start, and please do.
Yeah, I'll just go through this agenda item 4 here, which is, it's our first meeting, real meeting, I guess I would say. And we're just going to go down the agenda as it's written. I think number 5, review of Oregon public meeting law. I'll speak to that on that, and I'll take a little bit of time speaking about that. I know that Alex talked about that today a little bit and did a good job, but I can talk about that one. Ordinance 84 STRs and the update. That's going to be a pretty short one, because we've got the other special meeting coming up on, I think it's the 22nd, and Sarah Absher is going to be present at that meeting. If we remember, at the 12th, she was conflicted. She wanted to speak about STRs to each unincorporated area, and Pacific City has their meeting on Saturday the 12th at the exact same time that we have our meeting, and so we had to find a different time. Bob, who is the chair in PC Pacific City, said that it's their annual meeting and they had all the signage out and everything ready to go. So, so they will have Sarah on that day, and we'll have her on the 22nd. And then we get to the nomination approval vote for bylaws committee. Just, you know, having been present at a few Zoom meetings where we do a vote, I guess the only question I would have is, are we ready? Will we be ready for that? I guess that's a question on the officers.
Let's see. So let's go ahead and take up that question. Chris, would you like to do a dry run poll, or maybe I can do it? I don't know. With 6 choice, like a multiple, like a select as many as you want with 6 choices. Like is that something you could cook up really quick, or are you not in front of your computer?
For this call, yeah. I need to drop off.
Oh, okay. Because it's really late where you are. Let's see. If you drop off, are we gonna? I'm still a host, so I think you can drop off.
You're co-host, yeah.
Okay. And I wonder if I can. So really quick then, since you need to drop off. Do you feel comfortable creating a poll that has like 6 choices, and you can choose as many, like it's just like checkboxes?
A multi-select, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the easiest thing to do, is just tell everyone, don't pick all 6, like pick 5 of these or as many as you like, but and then just do a like who the 5 people who had the most votes will win.
Right, and this is for the 12th.
Yes.
Yeah. That's certainly doable.
Okay. If I can figure it out, I'm not sure if I can. I think you have to be the host to do a poll.
Oh, you're gonna do it now on this call?
If I can, but I don't think I can. I don't see where I could do a poll. So I won't.
Okay. Well, what would the choices be?
It would be the 6 people's names.
Which 6 people? Do we have volunteers already?
For the bylaws. This is for the bylaws committee.
Oh, for the bylaws. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So you wanted to move that agenda item to this call?
No. We're discussing what we're going to do on Saturday right now to make sure that we're prepared to run this election, and that we know how to do the poll, and that we know what, like, the steps that we're going to take.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be done now. We've got a few days.
No. Right. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I could create the poll, and I could share it with you and others, or just
maybe you and I can do a test run or something between now and Saturday.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. And the other things so I'm just going to run through my understanding of what is happening in this agenda item that we will, you, Mark, will announce, like, that we, we're selecting the bylaws committee. We have 6 well-qualified volunteers. The bylaws specify that the largest number of people that can be on the bylaws committee is 5. So we have to choose. And probably tomorrow, soon, I am going to send out, we have received written statements from all of the candidates for the bylaws committee. Okay, so I'm just going to check the chat here because someone is sharing their thoughts. Except where's my chat? I'm having issues looking. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm about to address that, Helene. So on tomorrow, we have written statements from all of the 6 people, and I will send those out with a reminder either tomorrow or Wednesday. and we will ask the 6 people to introduce themselves, like to just talk for a minute apiece, say, hey, here's who I am. This is why I want to serve on the bylaws committee. And then we will conduct we will put forth the poll.
So Jeff, one thing about that, I think there are a couple who might not be able to be present.
Okay.
At the meeting on Saturday. So and I didn't know that they were going to have to speak, and so some will not be present for that.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to have them speak, but that seems like it seems like a good idea to me.
Could we get a statement from them that we could read to membership?
Well, we will have a written statement.
Yeah, we
will have a written statement. Chris, since you're still here, and Alexis just suggested that they could they record a video, and that seems like a great idea if they know how to do that. Mark, can you ask the people who can't attend if they can record a video?
I can ask them that. Yeah.
Yes, Lori, we will do that. I will put that up tomorrow. Okay. Okay. I think we're okay with this one. I will probably, when I go back through this video to do the meetings, I will make sure to collect the action items. That like Mark, you have an action item to ask the people who are not able to attend. I
think Lainey has a question. Is the vote for the committee as a whole or for each individual? You'll be selecting, you'll be able to vote on 5 of the 6 people that will make up, and those 5 people will make up the committee. So you'll be able to select 5 of the 6 people. And the idea,
and by the way, so I have a thought that I was thinking of sharing on Saturday, and I'm going to test drive it now. And if there is a feeling that all 5 of these people or all 6 of these people are really great, and people are not wanting to make feeling bad about disqualifying one of these fully qualified people, the bylaws committee could propose increasing the size of the bylaws committee to 6, and we could approve that on September 12th, or we could put that up to a vote on September 12th. So that's just throwing that out there that if there are people who feel bad about excluding one of these people like arbitrarily or just because they lost a popularity contest, and maybe not by a lot, there's measures that could be taken to rectify that. So Alexis.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I put that in the chat too, because I'm wondering, could someone make a motion before the vote to allow for 6 if it was seconded? I know Nancy was on here and she knows all that stuff, but I had the same thought as you did. I thought it was great that 6 people wanted to volunteer, and like, what a great, start to your guys' first meeting. It'd be so hard to turn one down if everybody, feels that way.
So I think my feeling, and Mark should weigh in on this too, is that we should adhere to the bylaws, and we don't want to set a precedent for changing the bylaws without giving proper notice and without going through the right channels. And even though this is a trivial one, and I had proposed, the bylaws also say that you have to get an opinion from the county council, which no one has tried to do yet. I have this terrible feeling that this is like a month-long process, that it'll take forever to get him to actually answer to spending time on this. But it's tricky, but I
makes
think
sense. That makes complete sense.
Also, if the 5 people who become the bylaws committee want to be inviting to the person who didn't make it, they can just invite that person to all of their meetings until they can, until the bylaws can be updated to allow 6. I think there's a lot of room for solving this problem, but we don't want to just kind of like ignore the bylaws because it feels kind of yucky, because this way leads to chaos. So, Alex, did I see you waving your hand like you had something to say?
No, I'm just generally a hand waver.
Mark, do you have anything to weigh in on here?
No, I agree with actually everything that you said, and actually what Alexis has said. I can't see not adhering to the bylaws, and it's just so what you said, Jeff, about the 5 that get elected, maybe they can invite the 6th person to the meetings until the bylaws meets, and maybe that's one of the first items that they take up, and that's changed formally. And I don't know how long we have to wait for county council, and whether I can certainly contact Sarah and let her know that we have a timely matter that we'd like their okay on, so that we get that done quickly. But I do agree that we should adhere to the bylaws, but maybe there's a way to work around it on this election too.
Okay, and Mark, I just started, I kind of grabbed the reins again, so I want to turn things back over to you.
Yeah, okay, all right. So thanks, we've got, okay, that's the, and let's see, we talked a lot about the community plan steering committee. That's item 8 on the agenda. I think we're set for that one. The community plan survey update by Chris and Rand. I don't know, Chris may not be on the call anymore.
It looks like he's still here. Chris, are you still on the call? Maybe he's he left himself signed in, but is no longer at his computer because it's really late where he is. So
okay. So is Rand? I don't know if Rand's there.
I think we lost Rand too.
We did. Okay. So
okay.
We'll have to.
That's too bad. That was one where we kind of needed to talk a little bit about.
We'll have to talk with Chris, one of us, this week, and actually I can talk to Rand as well this week.
Okay, sounds good.
And then the last item is open discussion of future agenda items. And
we got Rand back.
Hey. Okay. Good. Okay. Oh, good.
Had to start the barbecue.
Oh, okay.
Important stuff.
So you want to talk about the community plan, the survey?
Yeah. Maybe you could update the membership on Saturday. You and Chris are listed there, Rand, and just give a little update on that.
Certainly.
Okay.
So Chris and I will talk about that and present something together.
Yeah.
Now my understanding is that the two of you feel like the survey is cooked, it's ready to roll.
That's the response we got. Everyone had an observation. Mm-hmm. Everyone said we could do it a different way, but this is working and it's ready to fly. So,
but Chris is stepping away
more elegantly on Saturday, I hope. But I mean, it's basically been reviewed and inside out, and people felt like it was very functional and ready to go.
Now, there's a question of whether we say it's functional and ready to go, and we're going to hand it off to the committee, the steering committee, which will probably not be impaneled until the next general meeting, which means it's going to sit there for 2 months. Is that an acceptable outcome for you?
I don't have any power over this, so I'm just like everybody else. I mean, I would think that it should get rolled out, but I think membership wants to vote on it.
Okay, and Mark, Alexis has her hands up.
It was before Rand's update. It didn't have to do with that. Do you want me to go anyway?
Okay.
Well, I don't know what you're going to talk about, but you have your hand up.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it's really the only reason that I popped into this meeting, but here I've given you all this feedback that who knows if you wanted it. But I have been talking a little bit with Mark, but I want to make sure it gets in the agenda or it finds a spot in it. So the last meeting I brought a motion regarding allowing anyone who wants to volunteer for a subcommittee to participate. And what Ms. Absher said at the last meeting is that we would bring it, and I know Nancy was there as well, we would bring it to the August meeting for a vote of the membership. So it's not presently on the agenda. And so I don't know if it is in the meeting minutes that we're supposed to vote on. So I just want to make sure that it's resurfaced. I understand that we didn't have a subcommittee for bylaws and now we will, but that was my whole intent of giving it to county council and Sarah ahead of time, because we didn't have a bylaws committee in place. We had this whole discussion at the last meeting. So before more committees are formed, you know, the commitment was made that we would take a vote on if these committees should be more transparent and open, which goes back to kind of the prior discussion about Mark and on the other committees. So I just want to ensure that there is going to be an opportunity for that vote, because that was the commitment that was made to the membership.
Mark?
Yeah, I talked with, I've talked with you about this, Alexis, and I guess I'm trying to, I've been thinking about this, and I think, I guess what you're proposing is that there be a motion and a vote on your motion because there's no bylaws committee currently impaneled. Is that because the bylaws are pretty clear that a motion would go to the bylaws, they'd review it and make a recommendation to the membership. That's how the bylaws say to do it.
Right. So what we discussed at the last meeting is that there wasn't a bylaws committee, and I had reached out to Sarah about it. So I sent it to Sarah and county council in the absence of that step, which ultimately the membership votes anyway after it goes to the county. So I don't see why, you know, if it now has to kick back to bylaws, then it's another 2 months away. And I already tried to bring it to the last meeting, which was 2 months ago. So I'm not comfortable with it continuing to move as we're discussing new committees being formed. And I want to say with utmost sincerity, I think that this group of leaders that is coming in has a real commitment to transparency, as evidenced by this meeting tonight. But in the current written bylaws, it dies with the chair. And this is not a comment on you at all, Mark, but I think that it's really important that membership has an opportunity to vote on if they feel that that is the right direction, or if anybody who is an eligible member of the NCAC should have the opportunity to participate and, again, be voted on just like anybody else, but should have an opportunity to be out there. And that's what I brought to the last meeting.
Rand, go ahead. So Mark Rand has his hand up.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
So it's debatable as to whether a bylaws committee exists. According to the bylaws, it starts on July 1st and ends the end of June. So the bylaws committee was very active last year and put forward bylaw changes to the county, and the membership voted in one of the last two meetings to approve a number of the changes. So to say there was no bylaws committee is very debatable. I'm not sure what the other side of the debate is, but they did function all last year. So I'm not sure how they could not exist if they functioned. So that's that one. And in that regard, when you brought the motion to have this change in the bylaws committee. That bylaws committee had like a week left, and then the new administration begins then. And what the bylaws say is they have to put together a bylaws committee at the first meeting, which is in August, and then that bylaws committee exists, and they can deal with your question. But you've hit a real strange passage of time where there really has not been a bylaws committee, and it's just about to be reconjured by the new board. And that's what I was trying to share with you last meeting is we don't have you can't do anything right now, and you can't get anything done until a new bylaw committee which will begin at the first meeting. So I think your business is legitimately going to get dealt with, but there is no bylaw committee in the time that you requested the action to happen. So you're going to have to wait until they create a committee before any bylaw can be altered.
Yeah. So that's not what was communicated at the last meeting, and I don't want to rehash the last meeting. So what was committed at the last meeting, and I did ask at the last meeting who was on the bylaws committee, and you didn't have an answer. And I'm not trying to go backward, but the commitment was made by Sarah, who is ultimately the person who approves all of these decisions, that it would come back to the August meeting. Because Jeff, I'd like to finish. He's talking about what I said or I didn't say.
I'm executing a point of privilege as an officer that we do not want to have our meeting descend into like a I said, you said, I said. And Mark, like I'm going to add, like you're the chair, I'm going to ask if your permission to share some thoughts here.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't have to say anything further. I'm sorry if that was interruptive. No,
it's so I reviewed the recording from last month, or from the last meeting, and so did Mark. Yeah. And Alexis, I'm totally hearing your frustration and how important this is to you. But I am in agreement with Mark that at the end of the day, like our North Star going forward is we're going to try and do things by the book and follow the bylaws. And we can't make a motion and turn the sky, like we can't make a motion that the sky should be red instead of blue. Like motions are not, you can't, like there's a limit to what we can accomplish by making motions. And anything like anything important, changing the bylaws, new business, like all of that has to be done in a way where the general membership gets to review it. So if there's a change in the bylaws, we have to publish a revised version of the bylaws that have been reviewed by county council and that has been that the bylaws committee has put into proper form. And so I understand that you were frustrated and you tried to find a different vehicle by sending your request to Sarah Absher, but Sarah Absher doesn't make all the decisions for the NCAC. Like the membership of the CAC makes the decisions for the CAC. And the way we do that is that we follow the process and publish. If we're going to change the bylaws, we publish we make sure those changes are vetted. We make sure they go through the county council, and we publish those proposed changes with plenty of notice so that people can read the new bylaws, and then and then decide whether they agree with those changes. So I understand your frustration, but I don't agree with your interpretation that there was a commitment made at the last meeting that we would definitely vote on this month. I think there was a commitment made that it would come back to the agenda, and in the handoff between the officers, we screwed that up. Apologies. But I don't think that like we cannot change the bylaws in this meeting by taking a vote without having gone through the proper process. So Mark can request, so it's on us that we didn't include this item in the agenda. And Mark can ask the people attending if we can amend the agenda and talk about this, but we can't take a vote and change the bylaws in one meeting. That's not the way we were going to do things. So at least that's my 2 cents.
But Jeff, that's why I was told that it had to come to the next meeting, because that would have been the last meeting when I made the motion. And then I was told that it couldn't be done in the same meeting, that the membership had to be aware. Randall, we were at the same meeting, and that it had to come to the next meeting. And I don't agree with what you're saying, but I'm not an officer, and I'm happy to talk to Sarah and see if her recollection mirrors, or maybe Nancy has an opinion. I don't know.
We have a recording. We don't have to ask her what she remembers. And what she said was she agreed that we should table it and take it to the next meeting. But Nancy, who
Saturday,
with some luck, will be on the bylaws committee in a week, has her hand raised. So let's hear from Nancy.
So, Alexis, I really appreciate your passion, and I am convinced that this will be decided and discussed. But I have to say, I agree that the process for changing the bylaws is so important that we do need to follow it. And I think, in addition to bylaws, if I am a part of the committee, I would like to suggest that the bylaws also include standing rules that can handle some more of this kind of detailed information, like you're suggesting about how committees are formed. But what I am hearing from this group of officers is that they do want to be very inclusive on how people are appointed to the committees, and are taking quite a bit of steps to have these pre-meetings and discussions about how to form the committees, and your excellent suggestions on how to have everything well thought out on what the committee plan should be and entailed. So I guess I'm feeling like they're approaching everything correctly. When I read the bylaws, I agree completely that their bylaws are a really important thing to change, and there's a process about it that includes notice. And I think the bylaws committee should be given any kind of input on what people would like to see changed, and have that go through the process. But I think it can be done relatively quickly, and that would certainly be an input that the committee should consider, in my opinion. But does that sound like something where what you've heard tonight about how the Planning Commission is going to be set up would be something that sounds okay to you? In the meantime, before the committee has a chance to consider your overall suggestion.
Oh, it's not my decision.
No, I know. I'm just asking, just with that, does that sound comforting, or like you are being heard and that the committee would suggest it?
I don't want to put any prior experience on the new committee. And I feel very passionately that the bylaws need to have more inclusivity. And that is why I attempted to bring it before any new committees were formed. And there was not an active bylaws committee. And so it's frustrating, you're hearing my frustration, because I believe that historically, there has not been an adequate process in place to encourage new community members to be involved, or community members with expertise such as you, Nancy, to be involved. And so I was raised, if you want to see something change, be impactful and make that happen. And so that is why I tried to look at a way that we could, through the bylaws, offer more opportunity for people to have their voice heard. Because unfortunately, without doing that in writing, in a guiding document, it's all conversation.
I appreciate that. And I also agree with Jeff that it would be out of order to actually have a bylaws motion at a meeting and have it approved without prior notice. I think it's really important to follow the process.
Mark, do you want to pick up?
And I do hear that a committee is being formed, and that there was some, people were given the opportunity to be able to apply for the committee. And I do understand that our written our written resumes or whatever short statements are going to be provided to everybody.
Yeah. So yeah, so I you know, I've been thinking about this, and I'm for sure in the camp of following the bylaws, and so I don't see how we could hold a vote on this. I think it does have to go through the bylaws. Now, having said that, I really believe that we're going to be transparent and we're working very hard at being inclusive. And so I guess my hope would be that if there is a change to the bylaws, that it would happen very quickly once we get the bylaws committee installed, and then it would be the written doc, it would be in the bylaws, and it would be in writing.
Okay.
Maybe next year. We'll see how long it takes. It's already been 2 months, so it'll be another 2 months, and then however long, whatever that process looks like for the county.
In the meantime, we're taking every possible length to do to form new committees, like which probably will be two, in as inclusive a manner as we can. Right. That is our guiding star is be inclusive and transparent. And Mark, I think we're nearing the end of our agenda, but I'm going to turn it over back. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that does wrap up the review of the August 12th meeting, and I talked about, I think, the check-in August 22nd, the special meeting with Sarah. I think I mentioned that.
There's no changes there, so we don't need to talk about it much.
Okay. All right. And
I mean, you can say anything you want, but I was just making sure that we had a spot in the agenda in case something needed to be talked about.
Yep. Yep. Okay. And I think with that, I think we'll adjourn. So.
Okay. Well, so we you should. I move that we adjourn.
Yeah.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Yeah, I'll second. Yeah. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Wave your hands.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming that everyone whose video is off is waving their hands. Okay. We're adjourned at 7:40. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for opening this up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Attending, everyone.